Hello everyone, welcome to today's video. Today I'll be reviewing a teaching game I played with one of my students. My student is a 4Q and this was a 6-stone game. I really wanted to review this game, not only for them but for the general populace, because it highlights a lot of things that I think if Black can master in a handicap game, not only will it help them in general with handicap games, but it'll help them become a better player and kind of see the game differently. And you'll see what I mean by that. In fact, you'll see very quickly. So white approaches, Black pinchers, which is totally fine. This is not a suspect move at all. Then white goes here. Now, specifically why I went here in this game was last game we played, I did this. So this was just to switch things up. So the specifics of this aren't so important, but yeah, just decide to do the 2-space high approach. Generally, you will not see this in even games, I will say. And then Black goes here. White jumps. And what do you notice about the board already? If you've seen me play handicap games before, whether that be in my handicap online series or in tournaments when I play handicap games, is that this is what I'm looking for. And by I also mean other strong players or anybody really playing a handicap game. Is we have a black group, white group, black group, white group, black group, white group, black group. And some of those are stones, but just for simplicity, we have the board divided up, right? And it even means if I can get some move around C14, then this side stone is going to be in danger. Now, the thing is, when you have handicaps, obviously you have stones as black where you don't necessarily want them, right? You don't get to pick where they are. Now, they can be useful, but it also means they can not be useful too. And so, in general, when you have a handicap game, and this is true in even games too, but especially in handicap games, corners are more important than sides. So what that means is when you have, like, let's say in this game, 6 stones, these side stones are less valuable, and I'll show that in a second. But I mentioned at the start of the review how Black, again, hasn't made any big mistakes, but Black needs to be careful moving forward, and here's why. Black's goal in handicap games is to stay connected and keep white disconnected. Those are Black's goals. And guess what? It's not necessarily rocket science that white's goal is to split Black and stay connected. And so there's this arms race there should be this arms race of white's trying to connect and disconnect Black, while Black's trying to disconnect white and trying to connect themselves. And so I mentioned this because already off the bat here, again, this is not necessarily a bad move, but I would highly recommend playing this move because this is starting to connect Black's bottom stone at M3 with the lower right cornerstone. And even if you're touching white here, that is okay. That is okay. And it's kind of interesting because we talked about the game, me and my student, a little bit afterwards. And they're like, I thought this was kind of the aggressive move. And in some sense it is, but you're not thinking about like immediately it's attacking white, you're taking away my base. But you're not thinking about what happens if the tides turn. This move is leaving yourself open for a counterattack. Whereas this move, there's not really much of a counterattack. Now, the flip side is, because we're touching the stone, yes, white can get forcing moves like this, and we get something like this, right? It's very common. But the thing is, and this is where handicap comes in handy, pun intended, is Black now has a wall facing all the thickness Black just played. And again, look at what white has gotten. Because white had to play on the defensive, right? White couldn't counterattack here. Because white had to play on the defensive, all white got was a small corner group. And again, this is a small corner group, while Black got big influence. Now again, white doesn't need to do this immediately, but it means even if white can go elsewhere, like I play the same move in the game, well now Black doesn't need to worry about the M3 stone. And so if Black plays, I don't know, just for example, D7, Well, black is following that that kind of game plan of I am going to keep white disconnected. Look how all of white's groups are disconnected, whereas, okay, black's groups are not necessarily connected, but black stones in the lower left are out in the center. Black stone at M3 is, for the most part, connected on the bottom. So, yeah, this is how you want to try to play your handicap games. Again, white's not going to make it easy, but that's how you want to try to play. Now, you might say, well, okay, why doesn't white then just jump immediately, right? Why doesn't white split black immediately? And that's because this makes O3 heavy. So even if I play the same move, well, what happens now if black jumps? Well, now if black jumps, now these two stones are heavy. So there's this balancing act of when should I activate Aji to separate my opponent or try to connect or whatever it may be for the cost of making my stones heavier. And that's the key, is one stone you can give up. Whenever you add more stones, it gets harder and harder to give up. So yeah, black goes here. So again, and we can see, not that I played it in this game necessarily, but if white were to do something like this, white would start to connect. Maybe there's even slightly better moves. White would start to connect back to this G4 stone, and now black's the one on the bottom getting surrounded. So if you can master this balancing act of staying connected while keeping your opponent disconnected, it's going to help you a lot in, again, not only your handicap games, but just in your even games, and therefore make you a stronger player. So again, here, I showed it in the other example, but D7 is the move to play. D7 is the move to play. Because again, if white just pushes up, then we are isolating G4, and we're even starting to connect back to the bottom side stones. Because there's another concept in Go that's not really talked about that much. It's kind of presumed, but it is true, and it is important to say aloud. But the strength of your stones, or any stones on the board, are relative to the nearby enemy stones. So while G4 is weak, or any of white groups are weak, black's groups are strong. But if you flip it, if white's groups are strong, then the nearby black groups are weak. And this is true, again, for the most part, right? Once you get into, end game, it doesn't really matter much. But in opening and early middle game, that definitely matters. And earlier in the review, I mentioned how you need to prioritize the corners. So what that means is, okay, you might be saying, well, D10 is getting isolated. That's totally fine. That is totally fine. I've seen a lot of players try to play like this, which again, you're, one, adding an extra stone to D10, therefore making it heavier, and two, now you owe a move up top as well. So here, I would just recommend just backing off, just playing some move. Just playing some move like this. Even in some cases, you can attach as well. When you know you want to give your opponent that side, you can play this kind of move. But just playing some way to give white that stone. Because the thing you will have to realize is that side is not going to be all that, right? Even if we do something like this, the amount of stones it will take white to solidify that side is not going to be worth it. So even if white tries to build on a large scale, if we just give it to white, again, we can just let white have it, and it's not that big. If you imagine this kind of move ascente, and then we get to descend, that's not that big. Black's getting more in the upper left and lower left. You're getting way more. Way more. And even if here, like white stands up, you could even jump now because you've already helped the upper left group. So yeah, there's this, again, it's a difficult balancing act, but if you can master it, if you master it, it's a lot easier to see, but secondly, it'll make you a stronger player as well. So come out, and then black plays down, which is, again, it's not the worst move, but black really should think about playing some move, again, to separate. Don't let white connect. Again, you kind of have to be think on the fly here. Like, this is not a standard move, but the thing is, G4 is not a standard move either, the approach. So you can kind of think kind of creatively, like, okay, how can I keep white separated? Is this the best move? Is this the best move? You just go here. Again, it's not the worst move ever, but again, it will allow white to, if white chose to, play here. And again, you're not connected on the bottom. So these bottom stones are weak. If you play something like this and white does the same move, well, you can actually start to connect all your groups. And again, the important thing is these two stones are now heavy. So now you know white cares about these two stones. But I approach. And black does do the smart thing, just kick and then jump. Or kick and then knight's move. And so here's the thing. Black plays kick and then jump. Or knight's move. And then I jump out like this. So based on how black played on the left side, how do you think black should continue? Well, locally, when you have this kick and then your opponent, and you play the knight's move, and then they play a 2-space jump, you need to play either G16 or H16. And it has to do with, there's a lot of bad Aji in the corner. Namely, if you go elsewhere completely, there's Aji with attach and then peep here. This is very annoying Aji. And the idea is that stone at G14 is going to be some sort of ladder breaker. The other way white can use it is shoulder hit just directly. And again, the idea is I'm trying to isolate the lower left corner. So black should just do this. What black does is, notice how black kicked makes me stronger on the left side. I even jump out and then tries to save the left side. And so this is like black's first really big mistake is these are not important stones for black. This is what white wants. And so let me just kind of, for example, what if black were to give that up, right? Let's say black just goes elsewhere. And then let's say white wants to surround the left side. Now, I would like to play this kind of move because you can see how nice all of white's shapes connect, but again, realistically, black can still run out. So I really have to play this kind of move. So, okay, that is all surrounded, right? The thing is, though, if you just look at that side, it looks big, but after just a few exchanges, Hane, white really has to fix. If you try not fixing, there's really bad Aji with this clamp. Really, really bad Aji. So you really do have to fix. And then let's say we kick, and again, not that it's directly sente, but let's say white answers. All of a sudden, that left side's quite small. In fact, black has more, at least even amount of points on the upper left and the left. And if you consider the lower left too, black has way more points on the left side. So, and black got to move elsewhere at 017. So basically, white gets over-concentrated here. So black doesn't need to save the stone and really shouldn't. And that, again, goes back to what I was saying earlier of when you have a handicap game and the stones are placed for you, the side stones are easier to give up than the corner stones. But I see a lot of players try to save all their handicap stones. So black jumps. So I play the knight's move here. While this is like better shape towards the center, I'm really actually looking at the bottom side. And then black attaches, Hane, and then goes under. And then here's another good tidbit. We're giving a lot of good tidbits for black. Here's a good tidbit for white. Leave things unfinished in handicap games. When you leave things unfinished, your weaker opponent has to make decisions. And as it turns out, if the handicap's correct, they often make wrong decisions. And so I could just connect here, right? And then black fixes. The thing is, that completes the sequence. That completes the area. There's no Aji anymore for white to use. And so it's better to just leave it. It's better to just leave it. And so if black wants to spend a move to cut here, then okay, black has spent 2 moves to get 5 to 10 points, right? So leave things unfinished. Basically, in a handicap game, you want your opponent, as white, you want your opponent, black, to make decisions. So you want it to leave things unfinished. Now here, so 1, also black should just slide here. Black should just slide here. But 2, after this is a very key move on this board. And it has to do with, hey, black, remember how you tried saving the stone? Well, now you got to use it. Now's the time to use it. So black has jumped out. What is a spot that looks, if black were to get it, would not only help black stones here, but potentially even counterattack? What do you think? Well, if you said G9, you are a strong player. That is the key shape and white shape, and all of a sudden, look how white is kind of floating on the left side. Again, white doesn't want to just slide under because there's no points there. White doesn't want to play B10. It's just second line territory. That wouldn't be very good. And directly there's bad Aji with cutting across sets. Like let's say white jumps, right? There's Aji of cutting across. There's Aji of poking at white shape. So there's a lot of nasty things for black to look for by just simply playing the shape move. So here black really should think about playing here. Black should really think about playing here. Again, now if I get the chance to surround, right? Let's say black just does whatever. Now I am surrounding 2 stones instead of 1. So now the left side's significantly bigger. And so that's why once you add a stone, for the most part, they get heavier. So black hanes and connects. And here, this I thought was good order of moves. I peeped first. The idea being if black connects, then I would fix. And now I know black cares about these 3 stones. But if I fix first and black goes elsewhere, and then I try to peep, well, black could say, well, since you already fixed at C12, I don't need to save the stone at D10. So that was my thinking here. I think it's actually kind of tricky because I think in response to this, black can actually just clamp. Like black can counter ask white to see what white's gonna do. So, but black caps here, which is not bad. It's not bad. Again, black's trying to go after the 2 stones. Makes sense. But I say, you owe me a move. Because, again, this is... If you've seen my videos before, I drone on about this in almost every one of my games, whether handicap or even. But if you can seal in corners, it is so valuable. So now that you know that, where do you think I went? G17. G17. Once you surround corners, here's what happens. That corner has no effect on the rest of the board, and now it's a local liability, as in you have to make sure you live. You can't just connect out to the outside. You can't just connect to outside stones. You have to live on the inside. So that's why it's so valuable. And if you're surrounding a whole corner, that generally means you have all the outside influence. So notice I have influence facing the left side and the top side. And so black notices this, plays here, and then plays N17. So again, direction-wise, this is good. So then I play L4. This is looking for, there's some Aji later if I can get this exchange of being able to Atari down and then go all the way down like this. While it's not the greatest exchange, it's very vulgar because I'm assuming black has to answer everything I do. I can then cover here. Now, that's one benefit. The other benefit is black's going to play differently if the corner is taken. What I mean by that is I think black should actually earlier, when black goes here, play this direction. The corner is worth more. Play there. And then I approach. Black kicks. And then black goes here. So again, what is more valuable? The center or the corner? Definitely the corner is worth more. If white is forced to run out now, and there's not an easy way to do it, right? However white has to do it, white's making no points here, and black's solidifying the entire lower right, which this is quite nice. This is quite big. But by going here, well, now you're just going after the 2 stones. And so I'm able to play in the corner. So here, black has a few options. Black can simply just connect, like something like this, or fight the ko. And so black decides to fight the ko. And I agree with fighting the ko. The thing is, though, black doesn't really fight the ko. Now, here is their reasoning. They told me that they had heard, and this is true, that even if you plan on giving up a ko, it's okay to take once and then back off, because you force your opponent to use a ko threat. And that is true in some scenarios. This is a different scenario, because this isn't entirely a flower. It is a flower ko for black. I guess the best way to put it is the position changes based on if you start the ko or not. So it's not just a free let me force my opponent to use a ko threat. The board state actually changes if you start the ko. So black plays here. So first off, where's a white ko threat? Again, there's quite a few, because remember what I said in the upper left? I played D18, and this is the power of getting not only the shoulder head at G16 but also the drop down at G17. You can play nasty ko threats like this. And I think the best way for black to play locally is just play the bamboo joint. If white wants to connect under, I'm pretty sure this just works. If white goes here, this would, just definitely work. I'm pretty sure it even works if white extends here and you play like this. I believe, but I tested it, that this should lead, it is like a 20 move sequence, and white's the one who ends up getting an eye. I believe white ends up losing by 1 liberty. So if you are worried about that, so that should be okay for black, but if you are worried about that, you can just Hane here and just fix like this. Again, it might not feel great, but that's the price you pay from getting surrounded. You have to live locally. So I think just playing the bamboo joint is best. Black descends, which, while it does separate me, this is almost what I want in a sense, because, well, okay, now you're going to let me make an eye in the corner potentially. So, but I take the ko first. So here's what black should do. And it might be a crazy concept, but black should fight this ko. Just fight the ko. Black has a lot of ko threats. And that's one of the kind of steps to being a stronger player, especially was the breakthrough of showdown, is not being afraid to fight ko. Even if you feel like, oh, I'm not good at fighting ko, or it's, one of my weak spots. One, how do you get better is you play kos, but two, you have to just kind of jump into kos. Even if you're scared of them, whatever it may be, you have to just start fighting kos. Because what black does is just connect, and I can take, and then black feels like, okay, I have to disconnect. But look at white's shape in the lower right. White has a Ponuki shape and is 100% alive. Notice, though, so remember black was saying, oh, it's no different, or I can let white use a ko threat first, and then I've made them use a ko threat, and I'm gonna connect anyways, so it doesn't change anything. Well, that again here it's not true. Because let's say black does connect, right? Well, let's say white plays the same exact move in the game, right? I end up going here. Now, if black just goes here, okay, that's not great. But if you can Atari here, this is a very famous shape in the corner. Again, in the game, white was just alive, but here, this is a dead corner. So let's go elsewhere. Do you know how to kill this? Again, a pretty famous shape, or Tetsuji, is you can S1 here. Because you're threatening to throw in at R2 for a snapback. So if white has to go there, then white's just dead. So the board state is significantly different compared to, even though you feel like you're forcing white to make to use a ko threat, I mean. But so after that's finished, then I go back to the upper left. Again, there's a lot of variations here. I'm not going to get bogged down in them, but again, the main problem here for black is even if black can win this, it's going to be so painful. It's going to be so painful. Black's going to have to spend a lot of moves on the inside to capture the same amount of points or even less points. So black clamps. This is good timing. And then white goes here. So why did white go here? The reason why white went there is if I descend, which I would really like to, black's going to cut like this and be able to push or be able to capture these two stones. Now you might say, well, you can still play here and be able to capture the 3. And while that's true, black would then be able to connect here. And this is pretty much Sente because there's an attachment at B10. So if I have to fix, black's actually just alive in Sente, which would not be that great. So in the game, I play E15 first to see what black's going to do. before I invest all those stones in, and black does connect. Which again makes sense, but is a mistake. Black needs to just cut here. Because it's gote for me to capture the 3. And if I do capture the 3, again, the board state has now changed. Now that this stone's captured at B13, you can come back, connect to this peep, and all of a sudden we go back to the lower side. It's even weaker now that black has stones at M4 and L3 and stones in the upper left now. So this would be dangerous for white. This would be very dangerous for white. But black fixes. So I descend, and again, if black really wants to fix here, I'm pretty sure this is the spot. This is the spot that gives black an eye and takes away white's eyes. So yeah, this would be the move to kill locally. But black goes there. White pushes. And black Ataris again. Which again, this is not what you want to do, especially when you don't plan on fighting the Ko. Because again, black said, oh, well, I'll make you use a Ko threat. I use a Ko threat. And black connects. Which again, this is a different shape compared to if you just connect. Because you might not play D19 later. You might play C19, right? You might want to play on the inside. Take away the ice shape. But here, you give me the Ponuki shape. So play there. Again here, black has options here. One option is just live. Sure, okay, I'll live in the corner, but you'll be able to connect back to the upper side. And so you're able to salvage something here as black. But black simply just kind of follows through it with what white wants. And now we basically have a Ko shape. You basically have a Ko shape. Black connects, H19, black throws in, and then Atari. So it's a one-step Ko for white. And I've viewed it as, there's a nice technique of, there's the Ko in the upper left, so I don't necessarily need to play here to kind of fight it. I can play there anytime, basically. So the thing I missed was, this is a pretty big Ko threat. That's what I miss. So you'll see I start to play kind of like Ko thready-ish moves, if that's a phrase. Hane cut here. And then I waited until I felt I had a big enough Ko threat. So black went there. So now I start the Ko because I felt, okay, I can now Atari. So this is what I was kind of doing. This is what I was kind of aiming at. And then black makes a huge mistake here. Is if your opponent, or if you take a Ko as a Ko in response to a Ko threat, you're just going to give them another Ko threat. Because black takes the Ko, I take the upper left Ko, black plays a Ko threat, we'll get back to this move, I answer, black takes, but then I can just play F3 again, and it's as if I had just Atari'd initially. So black needs to just connect. Black needs to just connect. So if your opponent plays, or if you take a Ko as in response to your opponent's Ko threat, that is not good. You want to just connect. You give them, or you keep their Ko threat alive, basically. But yeah, here, yeah, this is, while black is threatening something, this is way too small. I should definitely just end the Ko. Like so, if black wants to kill in gote, then I will just, I don't know, take a huge left side somewhere. I'm not sure. But yeah, this would be pretty big for white. This would be pretty big for white. Or maybe something like S10. But because black, I'll say part of it was a mental thing where black let me keep this Ko threat here. So I was like, okay, here's a Ko threat black has to answer. But black actually ignored. Black ignored, and I got the take. So black saves the corner. I cut, we do this. We go back to the center. Black plays there, and then I make my group alive. So yeah, it's so far you can kind of see the efficiency of black stones. Again, going back to initially when black's upper left got surrounded, black has to look how many stones on the inside black had to play to keep the same amount of points, or even now probably less points. So yes, black goes there, go here, black double Hane, sure, extends, I just fix my shape. It's probably a little slow. Probably something in the center is definitely better, but I just want to make sure I'm alive. Black plays there. And yeah, here, this is way too calm, I think. You can definitely go all the way with something like this. Remember, you have a stone on M15 and these 2 stones here. That means this stone can't be cut off. You go here, it's a very obvious move for white. I just cap. Black goes there. So yeah, black does have still a slight lead here, but black has to make sure there's no Aji in their shapes, which you can look around the board. There's a little bit, but secondly, make sure white doesn't get too many points in the center as well. Black plays there, white hanes. Yeah, and here black can simply just hane here. While there is Aji with this kind of cut here, there's actually no way for white to kill these 3 stones. White will be able to squeeze with something like with this, but you keep the 2 stones here, 3 stones cut off. But black just jumps, which allows me to start to connect back. And again, this is a fancy move. It obviously leaves a weakness here, so I'm not sure why I played it. It's just, this feels like a slow move, but it works, right? This is a fancy move with good shape, but it simply doesn't work. So just play the move. If those are your choices, play the move that works, basically. So Tari, and then bump. So this is me fixing now. Back answered. And now it's a close game. Now it's a very close game. And this is a good order of moves to mention. If I hane first and then play here, black can answer differently. Black can answer differently. Maybe black would still play the same move, but maybe black might play this kind of move or this kind of move or this kind of move, right? So this is a nice order of moves. Play this one first and then hane, and now black's kind of forced into the empty triangle. And then just fix. Maybe a little slow because there is actually nothing black can do here. Like if I do something else. Like even if this peep is sent in and black does like that, there's, I guess there is a little, oops, sorry, little bit of Aji here. But again, actually just this move. I think this was the move I was missing. So, but I just connected. Because I'm also looking at something in the lower left, which we see not here. Black plays Sente. Like this. This is not time Suji, by the way. This is black trying something here. Black plays there. Fix. Yep. And so here the game is super close. Black connects. And then white peeps. And the whole point of this peep is just to see how black plays. Because there's 3, 4, 2. There's a few ways for black to answer here. Any way black answers is going to either get squeezed or black shape's going to be destroyed. Now, I think it's okay. As long as you don't die. Like, black doesn't want to just spend Gote to fix something like this or something like this. Oops. Something like this. So, I think it's okay for black to go elsewhere, but black needed to play the right move. Like, if black just goes here, white's going to clamp next. And, again, if you descend, white's going to be able to connect back, and you're just dead. If you play this one, white's going to get a ko. And if you play this one, though, this is probably the best option, but you're going to have to spend moves to, once again, capture. Which isn't, again, if you're alive, that's fine, but it is very painful. If black just goes here, though, white's going to cut, and white will be able to squeeze black somehow. Like so. So, again, white gets some endgame, but shouldn't be catastrophic. Shouldn't be catastrophic. Black connects here, lets me jump down, and then plays down, and lets me get this connection here. And all of a sudden, you can see, again, even if black can live here, how many liberties does white have? White has 8 liberties. And black has, would you know, 8 liberties. So it's going to be, again, even if it's Seki or black can kill, black's going to have to spend all these stones on the inside while white plays Dame, right? So, yeah, it's very painful for black. Now, I left it. This was a misread by me. I thought it was, I actually said to them, yeah, I was just going to let you decide what the state is there in the lower left. But, and it does get resolved eventually, so I'll just wait for the analysis then. But it was kind of funny that I was just like, yeah, black, you can handle it. Black's answering white quite a bit. Like here, black has Sente, but black fixes. It's very small. Hane, and this Hane is very devious because you have to be careful. You have to be careful because I was looking at things with this kind of clamp and then here, but nothing quite worked for me. I can't quite get something to work, to capture something. And so after I was like, okay, I can't do anything there. Let me just Hane here and see how black plays. And when black Hane's here, now I can cut. And yeah. So at this point, white definitely just has a point lead. So I'll speed up the review now. But yeah, here's where the misread was. Is I knew I had this move Sente. But I thought black could still win the semi-eye between these stones. But I looked at it again. I was like, oh wait, actually I think I can win this because again it's going to become an eye versus no eye. So black has to spend a lot of moves on the inside to be able to capture. And I was like, oh wait, black only has like 3 or 4 outside liberties. So like because one, black can't take away the eye because I can connect, right? So black has to take away an eye or take away the connection, and then all of a sudden we can see, yeah, black actually loses by 2 liberties. I don't even need to play the last move. So yeah, so that's a misread by me, or lack of reading more so. But then black even plays the worst move of just descending. And why is this a worse move? Because when you have an eye versus no eye scenario, inside liberties matter a lot. So notice here, black at least took away an inside liberty, but when you play here, you're going to have to play a5 anyway. So now that lower left has no chance. And yeah. Now, just a spoiler alert, you're looking at this board, right? If I were to tell you one of black's, or like we're in endgame, right? If I were to tell you one of black's groups, a different group, were to end up dying, but then makes a ko, and then a different one of black's groups ends up dying, you'd probably think I'm crazy. But that is actually what ends up happening. So nothing works here. Black connects. Hane, black's trying stuff. Black connected. Again, eye versus no eye. That's not going to work. Push. Connect there. That's big. Black Hane's. Which it was funny. Earlier in the game, black said something along the lines of, oh, I can't Hane there because it's a snapback, which is true. But then 100 moves later, black ends up playing there anyways. So black goes there. Make a bamboo joint. Black descends, and then cut. So I can capture. Atari, Hane. And yeah, it looks like we just have endgame, but then black plays here. And again, this is a misread by them. They forgot they had this Atari stone there, and they thought I could cut here. But when I go here, it's now a ko. And where's white's ko threats? How about S18? Because this is a flower ko. This is definitely a flower ko for white. Black Ataris, descends, and black Ataris here. Now, for all the Q players out there, remember a ko threat is a threat that is worth more or equal to the amount that you are potentially going to lose in the ko. So while it's not just a forcing move, a ko threat is not just a forcing move. It has to be as big as the ko or more. So when black goes here, okay, black's threatening to kill my lower right, but what's bigger, the lower right or the right side? So I just connect. So black takes, and now again, we're in a different endgame. Black plays there, it doesn't quite work, so I just keep pushing. Atari. There. Back Atari's there, that is not a threat, because I can just back off. Black takes again, not a threat. And yeah, so I'm just playing endgame, but black is like, no, there's something there. So black cuts, I just connect. And so here I do make a mistake. I need to just push here. This just keeps black dead. But when I Atari here, I did not see black go here. So this is a very nice move where now it's a ko, where if I take away this last eye, black can cut and potentially kill these 3, or if I connect, black can live, and it's still a ko. So regardless, it's going to be a ko. The nice thing is, though, I have ko threats still, believe it or not. So I Atari here. Black connects, because black's like, oh, I can still live. So black lived on the right side, but then P19. And yeah, all of a sudden, it's technically a ko in the upper left, but now any ko threat black plays, I'm going to, or in the upper right, I mean, I'm going to ignore. So black resigns here. Or actually, technically, I think black timed out here. But yeah, and I always do this with all my students. I always ask them, okay, look at the end of the game. Count the number of black groups and count the number of white groups. And that includes dead or alive. So in this game, black has, I wouldn't count the left side because black never was really invested in those stones, but black has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 groups. And white has 1, 2. And that goes all the way back to the opening when I was mentioning about staying connected and disconnecting your opponents. This is kind of a visual representation of what happens if you do or don't do that. Black has to make sure all of their groups live. So look how isolated and small the upper left is. This group had to live. Look how small, isolated, and dead the lower left is. It got isolated. Look on the right side. Look how small, isolated, and cramped it became, overconcentrated it became because it got cut off. So keeping your groups connected is such an important skill. And if you can keep your opponents disconnected, they're going to have a hard time. So, but yeah, this was my students game. And yeah, if you have any questions about this game, please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next video.